Jesus says that we're gonna always have the poor, and sometimes I like to think why he says that. Because for me, the poor is a seasoning in the world that gives a special flavor, because I have found so much beauty here. It seems like behind that pain, to face it and take the time to just be present, I have found treasures, just beauty.
At Lemonade International, we see ourselves as the voice of the people of La Limonada to the people of the United States. We see ourselves as a support structure for Vidas Plenas and the ministry and the organization that Tita leads. We hold them up through financial support and administrative support so that they can do the work that they're called to. When someone enters La Limonada for the first time, there's so much to take in. Your senses are overwhelmed. The sights, the sounds, and the smells of a community of 60,000 plus people who are living in a ravine that runs through the middle of Guatemala City.
We start working with the gangs and the thieves, and it was tough and hard work. And at some point, God asked us to work with the kids to prevent them. I want to fight to protect the children, to maintain the pureness and the innocence the children have. So our focus is prevention. That's why we have the academies, but to be present in the community.
When they see Tita coming down, people come and gather around her, and they smile and they look happy and they call her to their homes. People feel, I think, relieved. There are no words, no actions, no psychology. Anything is going to heal them and help them and make them feel well. But love. Everything we do, if we don't love them, it's not going to work.
One of the things that I think is really unique about Lemonade International is that we are focused in one community in the world. And we empower local leaders who work in solidarity with the people of La Limonada.
Being in this community, I have learned more than 1,000 people has passed away. So I know the need is today, and if I come tomorrow, maybe the person is not going to be there anymore. If we don't prevent somebody today, tomorrow is going to be raped. The need is today and is right now.
Tita and the leaders in La Limonada are doing amazing work, and we joyfully invite you to partner with us in supporting them to change the lives of the people of La Limonada.
Welcome to Tita. I have made the joke many times that Tita should be every bit as famous as Beyonce or Madonna, so we don't share her last name. She's just Tita. She's got one name. And Tita is really the first time I met you, and we would go back to the hotel at night after being with you, and we would all sit around just kind of in utter awe of what we had seen and what you had shown us, and our experiences in God's presence with you. And we've often referred to you when you weren't here, and so now I feel like I have to confess this to you. We've referred to you when you're not here as the Mother Teresa of Central America. What does it feel like to have all of us stinking Americans look up to you in that way, and how do you navigate that?
Well, it's uncomfortable because, people put me in a place that we all are. You know, we are in the same spot, we have the same human being and the same amazing God. And I was telling Beth last night, yeah,
when she was telling me about Mother Teresa. Yeah, we have the same husband. So I bet many of us can look like her, because who lives in our hearts.
That's awesome. Throughout the morning, and as I mentioned earlier, this will be unique for us as a smaller group in this hour. This will be kind of fun, because throughout the morning, we are going to take your questions via text. So we used to do this all the time around here, and then have not done it for quite some time. So there's a phone number on the screen behind me, and you can text your questions right into that number. If you have questions as this goes on, just fire those off. Pastor Jason is here and managing. He's got about 14 different screens here. He's managing and tapping, touching, and but he's taking your questions, and will take care of those and help us walk through that. So please fire your questions, because I think because we're a little smaller group in the second hour, it'll give us an opportunity to really have more of a conversation than even normal. This will be really, really fun. So enter into the conversation, and we'll probably be able to get to more of your questions than not if you do. Tita, start by telling us how you ended up in La Limonada and how you ended up doing the ministry. I know as it started, how did you end up there doing what you're doing?
Well, that's a good question. I was spicy since I born, the black sheep of the family. And I was raised as a Catholic, but not just the name. My daddy modeled an amazing faith to me. But I was molested by my grandfather. He was from Germany, so honorable family, but you know. And I think that marked my life. I ran away from home when I was 17, get married with the wrong person when I was 19, living with him for 12 years of abuse, a horrible abuse and oppression. And suddenly I'm crying out to God. I'm lighting a candle, and because that's what I knew it's supposed to be, and asking God for help. And I heard his voice, and he says, "You choose, Tita, you choose this life." And I said, "God, if you don't help me, I'm gonna die this way." And I think that was the day of my salvation, my moment with him. I ran away from him. That was a very courageous thing, because I could not answer the phone or not even check the mailbox, or it was a lot of abuse and oppression. So coming from this world of darkness, oppression, and hate, coming to this Jesus world of light and freedom and love, you know, it was very shocking, very, very different. And I didn't attend any church, but read my Bible per 2 years. And I think I get it. I think which things are highlights what he wants. And his care for the poor, for the orphan, for the widow, you know, for the people that it's foreign, people is not from here. And so I will do whatever cross into my path, and that way I end working in the community hospital for the children that were burned. And one of the nurses asked me to go to the intensive care to pray for a gang. And she says, it's not the first time they are here. So I went, and there was just one gang member with many different things to keep him alive. He will not open his eyes. His mother was a witchcraft, and his dad was always drunk, and his girlfriend was pregnant. She was like about 15, 16 years old. Huge, beautiful belly. And when I talk to him about Jesus' love, tears will come, like roll down his cheeks. So finally, after a month, he was allowed to leave the hospital. But him and his family were so deep in my heart, and I just asked them for the address, and I started visiting them without knowing that it was La Limonada. Yeah, he finished high school, graduated as a pastor, studied theology. His whole family become Christians. Praise God for that. Yeah.
Unbelievable. It feels like the stories of transformation are so commonplace there. And I know that there's a lot to that, and I know that we can't encapsulate that. But one of the things that we learned from you while being there was this reality that the life that you interact with today might be gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so you lay it all on the line in every conversation, and you say everything you feel the Lord had led you to. You've shared a little bit about that. Share about how do you enter into every conversation so fully engaged, knowing this could be my last one?
One time in that community hospital, I heard these women screaming. It was like horrible screaming. And I went to her room, and there's a door, a little alley, and then her room, like she was isolated.
Isolated.
And when I look at her, she has just bones from here, like no skin at all. That shocked me, really shocked me. And I couldn't say anything, and I turned and do whatever I needed to do that day at the hospital. But I couldn't take her out of my mind. And the next morning, I showered and ran to the hospital, went to her room, and she's not there. So I went with the nurses and asked, where is she? And they said she just passed away. You know, it was very painful for me. And I remember I went to the morgue, and her body was still warm. And I whispered to her ear, because I have heard that that's the last thing you lost, your ear. And that time I learned that don't wait. And it's not just about salvation or, he's going to die. In our case, this 2-year-old little girl is going to be raped nighttime. It's about like serious things, it's every day. So, and you were saying this morning something about when you go to your office, restaurant or Starbucks or whatever, try to shine Jesus' light. You were saying that, just maybe you're there not just because of the coffee. I remember one time I stopped in a bakery to bring something to the small house church, you say? And I said something to the lady that was attending me, and we talk about Jesus and his amazingness, and everything. And I said, I'm gonna give you a little New Testament I have in my car. So I run to my car, grab the New Testament and give it to her. I never stopped in that bakery. But months after that, I stopped by again, and she told me, that day that you came, she was waiting for me to tell me the story, she was going to have an abortion. And that day, because of what we talked, she didn't have it. And she says, I have my precious baby, and I'm so glad God stopped me from having an abortion. And sometimes you even are not going to know the end of your conversation, but He is making the difference in the world, even that we don't see the result.
the first time I was in La Limonada with Tita, she walked us around the community and we got to meet a lot of people, and she'll share some more about that momentarily. But one of the things that really struck me is these 3 academies that are there, which are schoolhouses for little kids, little elementary age kids, and there's 3 of them strategically located throughout this very, very small neighborhood, but you have to kind of understand, and Tita will explain why they're there. And we got to meet the kids, and we saw them play, and who doesn't love kids, right? It's wonderful to see kids play and see them learn. But then we went upstairs to this room and this little table, and we all kind of surrounded around the table, and she said, now let me explain to you why these academies are so crucial. She said, because these kids have from 0 to 7, and at 7 years old, that's when they drop off the earth. And they either get into violence, into the gangs, they begin to act out on the abuse they've had, and they begin to now cause abuse, and all of these things that happen. She said, so if we start an academy and we can get them at 7, we can get them through those years when they would otherwise fall off the map. And then we can get them through to adulthood. Walk us through that and tell us about that. I know you have a little pointer, and we'll put up an image that helps articulate that, because it's important that you and I understand how important it is for us to play a part in these kids' lives while they're young.
Okay, we have 3 academies, and because this is 60,000 plus people living in this super small community, like they live very packed. There is not like parks or yard, or no, it's really packed one to each other. But these communities divided in 10 different neighbors, and they are ruled by gang members. So that's why we per now have 3, but I'm pregnant with the other ones. So
and the people don't cross those lines.
Talk
about that. Talk about.
If I'm walking with a person from a certain community and we hit the border, they will say, okay, nice to see you tomorrow, or whatever. And I have to keep on walking by myself because they will not cross. They will be killed. And sometimes even children, because when a gang wants to kill another gang, they start killing his family until he surrendered. So this is a war, I think, a real war. Like at least one person is dead every week. So the 3 academies, well, we receive children since 3 years old. And we have this time to affirm them in Christ and let them know who God is, and there is hope. You know, more than 20 years ago when I first was there, kids didn't know how old they were. They didn't know their last name. They didn't know or care about anything. They survived. They didn't live alive. They survived. So when the children are 7 years old, that you explain that, that's why it's this little going down thing. So when they are 7 years old, the reality of poverty hit them, and then they have the option of join the gang, like earning money, join the gang, or being a thieves, or selling drugs. But so we have them prepared that there is hope, you know, a God who is really present. And so we have the 3 academies and scholarships, because the children there, the families, everybody, the whole community, they don't care if they don't give value to the studies. I remember like 30 years ago, I read a bumper sticker. If you think education is expensive, try ignorance. That's why we invest in scholarships, allow them to go to high school, which it was very rare. But now this year we have 118, 17 drop, but so 100 and more, little bit more than 100 finish the scholar year. More than 17 have been graduated from high school, and around 5 or maybe more, around 5 have been finished college, graduated. We don't help in college because they have at least high school and they can pay their own studies. So that allows to have more in scholarships. In the parenting school, it's something very, very important for us because at the beginning I feel that I was in this boat with all the children with just one row, and rowing and going like this. So we make the parents to come, give them the row, and they will row with us. They don't do better because they just don't know.
Seems like a good time to take some of your questions. Pastor Jace, you got some questions there for us?
Got a couple different questions. Yep, some from this service, some from the first service. So we've got, first off, to go to Guatemala, La Limonada, are there any prerequisites? Can only a certain person go and serve?
No, no, there isn't any requirement.
Anybody can come and serve?
Yes, of course, sure.
And talk truthfully about is it safe place to go? Is it dangerous? Talk about that.
It's not a safe place, but if you're searching for a safe place, just obey God, even if He sends you to the Middle East. Yeah, that's the safest place.
That's good. Do you have any interaction with the local government? Are they helping? Are they a hindrance?
They don't care. They really don't care. People who lives in La Limonada is rejected and is trash. And there is a saying like, not even Santa Claus got to La Limonada. But in the 20 plus years that we have been working there, one time, anything had happened. God has guarded us and protected us until here. One time and it's something that just God can do. I'm friends with every gang, and they know that I know the opposites. But they never ask questions. There is a beautiful respect. One time I have a specific problem with one 18th Street gang. They are sanguinarios, very like sanguinario. I don't know that word. Like they will kill for an umbrella, or for anything. They are the worst. So I was being extortioned by them, and the other gang says, I have heard some rumors that you have some problems with. Give us just names, we will take care of. And I said, no, but all of them love us. And just to tell you, at least 2 of the ones that were doing that extortion thing, it was pretty bad. After every phone call, I have to run to the restroom. That bad. It was very scary. They will give me my son's name, my house. They know where I lived. The school, my son's school's name, his boss, everything. So it was pretty bad. But I never paid the money that they were asking me for, and I was clear, the money that I have is not mine, it's God's, and He didn't give me any because this was like a week old conversation. And so we had to close academies because when I tell them, no, I'm not going to give you any money, they say, we're going to hurt you, we're going to hit you where it hurts the most. And there were rumors that they were going to put a grenade in one of the academies. So we had to close school per 1 month. And then one of them, next time that we see each other, he says, Sister Tita, I'm having a good behavior. My girlfriend is pregnant and I am going to be a good dad. And one of the other ones told his mom, Sister Tita is my spiritual mother. She has taught me a lot. So I think obedience is the safer place ever, really. So if you feel called to God, come.
There's this this permeating attitude of prayer that is over everything there, and in a way that I hadn't experienced in a long time. You know, the scriptures talk to you and I about prayer without ceasing. This idea that we just pray throughout the day. And I've told the story here before, but in case you haven't heard it, it was just one of the more powerful experiences of my life that I'll never forget. As we stood on this cliff overlooking La Limonada, and it was my first experience walking in, and so you're just hit with this utter poverty, like nothing I had ever seen in my life. And I've been some places, and I mean, just trash running down a stream, the smell of sewage everywhere, trash everywhere, these homes that are built, just these little shanties, and people literally just laying in the streets still drunk from the night before. I mean, right there. I mean, it's just unlike anything you've ever seen. And we stood over it, and Tita instructed us, I want you to stand over and just pray before we go in today so that the Lord might guide our every step. So everywhere we go, we would go with the Lord's. And here we are, a bunch of white people from California on a missions trip. So we're like, yeah, awesome. Oh man, she must have really dialed it up for us. This is great. Like, you know, we're going to pray before we go in. This is great. And it occurred to me in that moment, this is just Tuesday for Tita. Right? This is just Wednesday for Tita. This isn't some special thing she's putting on because the white people from California came to town. They're there every day. This is just a day for her. And at the end of our time of prayer, she looked back at us with this huge grin on her face. And I hadn't met Tita previous to that. And so I looked at her as she's smiling, and all of us are like, oh, dear God, what have we done? I mean, just that fear came over even me as leading the team, scared to death. We have made a terrible decision. We should have gone on mission to the food bank in Folsom. And Tita looked back at us and said, isn't it beautiful? And it changed everything in a minute. Tita, tell us about that attitude of prayer that you've developed over the years, because that's something that we don't need to go to Guatemala to foster.
No.
Like, we should, as you mentioned, we should walk into Starbucks. We have this privilege to walk into Starbucks every time we walk in and say, okay, Lord, what do you want to do in these minutes? What do you want me to say? How do I be a blessing? But most of us are just thinking triple non-fat latte, and I got to be somewhere 5 minutes late. And God grieves. And then we get in our car and we race to the office and we think about all the stuff we got to do, and yet God's saying, I kind of have something for you. How do we foster that attitude of prayer?
Well, can you read First John?
First John.
Yeah. 1 John 2:6, I think. Yeah. And, John, it's a man, and he's well known to be tender and, let his head in Jesus, lay down. So this has to be a mixture. Some people says oh, you're a princess of God. I don't want to be a princess. I'm a warrior, really. So this is for boys too. I mean, this is not this sweet thing that for ladies. I mean, This is for everybody. Can you read, 1 John 2:6.
The one who says he resides in God ought himself to walk, just as Jesus walked.
So how he did walk. Then we have the reference of Luke 4. You read it at your house. You want to know? Read it at your house. But talking about the prayer thing, Mark 3?
Mark 3.
Yes, please.
Okay. The whole chapter.
No.
I like reading.
Good thing. You can read 13 and 14 and stop in the 8.
Now Jesus went up the mountain and called for those he wanted, and they came to him. He appointed 12 who he named apostles, so that they would be with him.
Okay. We have been called to be with him. And I promise I never planned this whole thing. I even didn't finish 8th grade. I don't know any about theology, but I know about him, about his love, and about that he's not that he wants just to use me, but he wants me to bear fruit because our relationship. So it says that he called them to be with him. And that's where everything starts. And even that God is for the whole world, God is very personal, like intimacy? Intimate. And what can be a yes for you can be a no for you. So we depend really, in every situation we face, we need his response, his guide, because every case is different. Every person is in a different step, in a different season. So for us, prayer is requirement. It's an addiction.
Well, Jace, do we have any other questions that have come in via text that we have a minute or two?
We had a question that was pretty much addressed about how do we apply your love for the people of La Limonada to our lives and for the people of the United States.
Each one of us has a spot. And if you want to be me, there is going to be an empty spot somewhere. So maybe use your classroom or your home, or who knows. If that's your spot, you do it. I want to share something, Matthew 24. God is really amazing. And God weeps for the children that has been abused. And I can tell you that he weeps for the abuser. For me, that's some of the things that, deformed my whole being. Having nightmares during a week and not getting sleep, thinking of a man abusing a 2-year-old girl or boy. Having had happened just once, but it was one time that it was the highlight. I found myself with bitterness and anger and frustration. There was not any more joy. And my son tell me something. And that made me think, okay, I'm really with a lot of bitterness. And maybe with the good reasons, you know. But God is love. And if I am going to live the life of service without love, I'm living without God. And so you love in wherever you are situation, you love because we have been called to love. In Matthew 24, you can read 11, 12, and 13, please, making probably emphasis in 12.
And many false prophets will appear and deceive many. And because lawlessness will increase so much, the love of many will grow cold. But the person who endures to the end will be saved.
It seems like, because with reason, our love or God's love through us is going to grow cold. That's how it says in English. Yeah. But then it says, but the ones that persevere to the end. So just remember, Satan just wants, if you stop loving and forgiving, Satan got you, you know. And maybe you're going to be saved and go to heaven, but you're going to miss a whole life of deepness. Like, you know, you will be just in the beach, like just playing with the sand and looking the whole sea, when you can go and see the corals and so many more in a big, huge ocean. So Christianity is a deep life without an end. It's on growing all the time.
Well, we could sit all day and hear stories from Tita. I bet you feel the same. Would you thank her so much, though, for sharing with us? I'm going to invite the band to join us up here. And if one of the band guys, would you help Tita get down? Tita has a badly injured back right now. She has grandkids that live here in California. And she's been playing with the grandkids all week and has thrown her back out, helping grandkids walk. So we thank her for being here. In your program packet, when you came in this morning, there's a little green half sheet that has information for how you can get involved. Maybe you're not going to go to Guatemala with us in January, maybe not ever, but you want to play a part in what we're doing there as a church. I'd encourage you to investigate ways you can help out. There are lots of great organizations all over the world to sponsor kids, and it's not an indictment on any of those organizations, but I promise you there's not an organization on earth that more of the money goes directly to the kids than this one. There's not some 15% fee. There's no president of the organization like Tita making $300,000 a year and driving a fancy car. Tita is living very, very simply, and the money that you send will go directly to help kids. So there are two ways you can do that today and in the weeks to come. You can support a child directly, and at the info table on your way out today, they'll have information on exact kids you'll be helping and serving. You can sponsor a kid and pay for their entire education, their clothes, and their medicine for $80 a month. Can you believe it? $80 a month. You spend more than that on manicures and Starbucks and trips to the local pub. You can, if that's too much, you can split it with somebody else. And I'm sure there's another person out there who's going to want to split, and you can sign up for a half. Or you can support directly to the organization, and you can support the academy directly if you want to just support a particular academy. Do that as well. Or maybe today you say, I can't do something ongoing, but I'd like to give one special gift. You can do that as well. So you can fill all that out. You can either leave it in the offering plates now, or you can leave it at the information table on your way out. At this time, I want to invite the ushers to join me up here at the front, and we'll prepare to receive today's gifts and offerings. Please continue to give generously to the ministry here as we support what God is doing here. And as you support this, it goes around the world. And if God's laid it on your heart to give above and beyond, you can even write that right on your giving envelope on the other line and write Tita or Guatemala or anything along those lines. We'll make sure all of it goes directly to them. Why don't you stand with me? Let's pray.